When you look at these two guys physically, my money would be on Braun Strowman. Mm-hmm. It really would. So there's no reason for him not to be in that conversation other than they've totally dropped the ball.
Let's shift over to you didn't, bro. Braun Strowman, your boy, Braun Strowman and Ricochet face the Usos next week for the titles. Is it time for new champions? Let's start there. Vince Russo, this only is for the SmackDown Championship, so they're doing the split titles with the Usos here, but not with Reigns. Do you take the SmackDown titles off of the Usos and put them on Ricochet and Braun Strowman, Vince?
How long have they been together?
A cup of coffee, probably
5 months.
They had a tournament match, the Intercontinental title tournament match, and then a few months. Yeah.
No, then I don't. No, if again, bro, if this was an up and coming team, not two singles wrestlers that come together should never in a million years be an established tag team, especially if they're brothers. It should never happen. This should have to be a tag team that was a tag team from the start, a traditional tag team, win up the ladder. I don't think you should take two singles competitors. And bro, let's be honest, Ricochet's a good guy. I mean, I met him one time at Lucha Underground, but has he ever been over? You're going to take a guy that has never been over, a Braun Strowman that's been up and down, put them together, put them against the Usos, a brother team that have been together for years, put them over, and then hope that they get over as a tag team. Nah, these are not the guys that I would be putting it over.
Ricochet has... Okay, so what's your definition of over, Vince? And I'll answer it accordingly as far as Ricochet is concerned. He's won some mid-card championships.
WWE television audience, I think, Vince would say. Because nobody, independent Ricochet was over. PWG Ricochet was over. WWE Ricochet is a fun attraction for people, but behind what cool things he does, nobody really still knows who he is or why he's doing what he does. Which, again, if he was allotted that opportunity to truly talk about who he is and what he stands for, then he'd be over. Yeah. That's what's lacking so much with so many people.
I mean, Chris, I don't watch SmackDown, but I hear about the important things. Then if it's important enough, I'll seek it out and watch it. I never hear anything about Ricochet. Nothing. I mean, that's what I'm measuring it by.
Got you. Yeah, Ricochet, he's an attraction. He's an attraction that appeased the wrestling fans and the children, on an episode of SmackDown. He's one of those, good little hands, basically, as Dutch Mantel would say. They'll slap a Intercontinental Championship on him every now and then to say, thank you for basically your contribution on SmackDown. Good job. I'll give you the Intercontinental Championship for, a couple months or so. So basically that's what Ricochet is on SmackDown right now.
Every person worth their salt as a person, these talents can be over if they were who they are.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'm certain of that, bro. I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
If he didn't have a script and a red light and thinking of what he had to say, and he could just be the cool-ass dude he is, and the father that he is, and the hard worker that he is, he would have those kids, he would have that attraction, but he'd also have the emotion and the investment of the entire audience wanting to see him win and become a tag team champion. If it were me, though, I would let the Bloodline hold every title for the rest of time at this point. I think it's great. I don't want to ever see him lose. I think they're the best.
Speaking of that, if they do beat Braun and Ricochet EC3, how do you protect Braun Strowman after yet another loss? Basically, especially with the up and down run that he's had since his return to WWE?
Well, I think you let him run into a bunch of stuff and take himself out, and then get hit with a couple things, and things thrown on him. You know, unfortunately, he could be the attraction, and he should be an attraction in a sense, but just by suffering that one defeat upon return and kind of being shuffled around, it just makes him a bigger version of everybody else. And that's the problem with WWE is no one could stand above or be different or be, you know, it's 50-50. And sometimes to create an attraction, you have to preserve their moments and keep them off. And every time they do show up, it's with impact and reason. And that's how you build an attraction. That's how you build an Andre, you know, Hogan and things like that. So at this point, I don't think it hurts him to lose. I don't think it, you know, it helps either. I just think it is what it is at this point, and short of like complete reevaluation of how we build stars, nothing changes.
Vince, if he didn't lose that match to Ricochet, you know, they were doing the flippy flop stuff and he lost to Ricochet. If he was still a strong, you know, name coming back, do you think that he could have been at the level of Roman to be a viable contender?
Well, see, that's the thing, Chris. That is the thing there in a nutshell. When you look at Roman Reigns and you look at Braun Strowman, there is not one single reason in the world that Braun Strowman should not be a threat to Roman Reigns. No. The only reason he's not a threat to Roman Reigns, and nobody would ever believe it at this point, is because the way they booked him. It's the way they booked him. When you look at these two guys physically, my money would be on Braun Strowman. It really would. So there's no reason for him not to be in that conversation other than they totally dropped the ball.
Yeah, like once the cat's out of the bag in a way too, right, you can't get it back in. I think there was a time where Braun was organically getting over to like super high levels and it was working with Roman, and then they kind of pulled the heel turn on him, like when he was naturally getting over. It seemed like he was Hogan in the blue trunks, ready to become Hulkamania. But instead of running with it and making that change, they brought him back down. And maybe that was his own fault. Maybe it was immaturity or inexperience at the time. Maybe he wasn't ready in somebody's mind. But at the same time, the organic get over was so prevalent and hot that once it's pulled, like everything else is just slightly, it's an okay version of it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, two people who don't have okay versions, they have great versions. They're in full gear, ladies and gentlemen. And that person is former WCW World Heavyweight Champion Vince Russo, former TNA World Heavyweight Champion EC3, ladies and gentlemen. EC3. I am Dr. Chris Feathersone.
I don't anticipate ever giving another match 7 stars, but if I do, then it'll be a wonderful thing for wrestling.
Yes, you have the power. You can do whatever you want. It's your ranking. You can give it 8.
You can give it
9.
9. Yeah, why not? Why not give it 9 stars? Vince Russo, EC3. This is the Wrestling Outlaws. Have a good night, everybody. Solo.